Welcome to Tenn Talk, the podcast where campus voices turn into career insights.
We sit down with professors, coaches, and campus leaders to bring you real stories, honest advice, and practical insights that help you succeed in college and beyond.
Whether you're exploring career paths, looking for motivation, or just trying to figure college out, we're here to help you along the way.
I'm Harrison.
And I'm Luke.
And together we're here to bring you the conversations that matter from a student perspective.
Let's get into the episode. Hi, everyone. My name is Luke.
My name is Harrison.
And I go by HQ, Hasib Qureshi.
Today we're filming an episode of our podcast, Tenn Talk. Thank you for watching. Want to get to it?
Yeah, sure. All right, so first question, HQ. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to become an entrepreneurship teacher?
The biggest thing I love about life is being able to make something better and thinking about something in a way that's different with a good reason. I mean, sometimes different isn't always the best, but usually if someone's different, there's a purpose and meaning behind it. So one of the things that led me, I mean, look, there's like an abstract reason to why I teach, and then there's like a real practical, like there's all shades of this stuff. I was coming off of failing with my music tech startup and learning a whole lot of hard lessons as a first-time founder. I'm always consistently, like I've always been drawn to creative people. I love people that just see something in the world and say that could be better, or why doesn't it work this way? And they're just curious. And this goes back to when I was a kid. I would just work with electrical components and try to create random inventions. Or we had Legos and there was like stuff that you can actually program different sequences of. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. You can make a crane, you can make it go this way, and you can make it. So I love teaching entrepreneurship because you get to instill that very curiosity in building stuff to other people. And then entrepreneurship's this thing that you put a business model on it, you can make money. Yeah. If you make enough money, then you don't have to work for anyone. Yeah. The benefits are great.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you about your background generally, like, and how you ended up here at UT.
Yeah, so I'm an alumni. So I'm UT Winston College of Law alumni. I came down here for law school. I had no idea Knoxville, Tennessee was a thing. So I came down here, and it was 2007. I toured it with my parents, with my family. I think my younger brother was there too, all of us. And the first reaction I had of this place was, wow, everyone's so nice. And there was enough openness, but there was a little bit of urban, and I don't know, it just felt really nice. Yeah. And then I got into law school, and I was really not excited for law school, ironically. But the first day on the tour, the first stop was the Joel Katz Library. And at that point, I was all into music. I had recorded tons of songs with like typically rappers and hip hop artists. I'd also worked with like classical musicians and rockers, and I was just really into music. And they say, yeah, the library is actually funded by Joel Katz, who's like the most preeminent entertainment attorney in like all time, and here's how. And I'm like, oh my God, what? So that like got me down to Knoxville, and then my wife kept me in Knoxville. We met in my last year of law school, and I was like, I don't want to screw this up.
So I saw on your LinkedIn actually that you met her in Old City over here.
You saw my LinkedIn? Yeah. It was around Valentine's Day. I was like, I'm telling everybody about how we met.
That was a good LinkedIn post. I enjoyed it.
Thanks.
I also wanted to pivot off that question. Do you feel like you always felt like you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Was that something you kind of fell into?
I've always wanted it. I grew up listening to stories from both my parents about how their dads were successful entrepreneurs in Pakistan. So I'm first-born American, and my parents immigrated from Pakistan, from Lahore, and my dad came first, my mom came second. They're actually an arranged marriage, but pseudo-arranged because my mom would lock herself in like her bedroom and say, I'm not going to meet that guy. So, but it was really fascinating, like how different they were raised. But just fast forwarding to this, I grew up listening to stories on my mom's dad, who was kicked out on the street by his dad, and all he had was, apparently, this is like folklore at this point, but he only had a briefcase to his name, and he bartered and traded up, and eventually he got a set of tools, and then he realized that it was hard to get a hold of tools back then. And this was probably the 50s, I think, in a third world country, developing country. And he was able to sell that. He ended up making that into a business. So he ended up having what we would equate to like Lowe's and Home Depot. He had that version in Pakistan, which was amazing. And then my dad's dad had an ice cream business in a country that has 110 degree temperature days like all the time. That's pretty good. So when I was little, I grew up listening to that. And then in high school, I even sold $2,000 worth of my own art. I did art for half my time in high school, like just super random. So I've always been selling stuff as much as I can remember. Yeah. But I was also raised as like almost a bubble baby because my parents were so hover that I didn't get a chance to take a lot of risks until I left the coop. So I'm kind of a late starter. And ever since then, I've just been kind of selling random things, but not totally random now. And I also, I'm a practicing attorney. I'm a tech founder. But anyway, it's always been a part of my, I love it.
Yeah. We want to ask more about the businesses you're working on right now. So
okay.
We saw that you're a founder of an AI education company called Hein, as well as a founder of the recording service Hein. And since you started, have there been times where you had to adapt or pivot quickly? And what is some experience you've had with that?
Okay, so both of those things, what's up? That's awesome. Both of those things are really products that haven't, so it's they're so early. And the Hire New, I made this AI grading assistant, and I've actually shelved a lot of that until I can figure out what does that mean for, just as a state employee, what opportunities and or restrictions do I have? So I'm kind of cooling my jets on that. But I made a localized AI grading assistant that on my computer, I can run hundreds of my student work, FERPA compliant, on my machine and have AI help me. So that's going in some interesting places, but that I'm actually cooling on that right now, and I'll explain why. Yeah, well, I kind of did, but I'll explain really why. The second thing that you mentioned, AudioHand, was my first tech startup, and the reason why it says present is because I was able to somehow get a patent out of all that, which is really crazy. Software patents are extremely hard to get. They're rare. My software patent has been cited by Google, Apple, Dolby Digital, and some random other patents, which is bizarre. But it was for, if a lot of people went into a show, then they hit record, then the audio files could be synced up in time by code. And that was novel and non-unique enough in that industry that we were able to get a software patent on it, which was kind of nuts. So cool. But the thing that I'm really focused on now is my law firm. Okay. Which sounds boring. Womp womp.
Not boring.
It's definitely not boring.
Well, I thought it was boring for a long time until I realized that I should really contribute all myself to it. And it was so weird. I kind of realized I was keeping the tech for other stuff, thinking I need to do other things. No. So I had a mental shift, and then I thought I could just bring it's so logical. Mm-hmm. And I was already trying to bring some tech tools into the law firm, but now I'm going hard on it. I know AI well enough as a coder, so I'm self-taught. I've coded more than half my life, and I've always made stuff as early as last year, senior high school. And I now have made an agentic legal system that allows me to do a lot of cool automated things, but still have more bespoke legal. I don't know. So I'm playing around with technology and legal, so legal tech, and I just see so much promise in it. I'm just going in harder on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of moving from that, do you, kind of a two-part question, do you feel like you see yourself as a lawyer? And for the record, you're also a professor here at UT. Do
Yeah.
you kind of take those principles into being a professor and helping students that way?
So I've never been great at making money all my career, frankly, because if I really wanted to maximize my money, I should have already been a part of a big law firm. I should have just went to Silicon Valley and just coded my brains out, right? Because I know how to code before AI coding was a thing, but I'm not wired that way. I can't help it. And so all of this kind of feeds together. I love seeing the moment that students figure out, not like whether they get a topic, that they realize that the thing that we're talking about could actually change what they want, how they get it out of life. That stuff makes me really excited. And it's the same reason why with all my businesses, well, products, and then the law firm as a true business that I'm working on, that I just see the potential with what it can do. Like if I can make legal services better and cheaper, then more people can afford them. And it's really hard for people to find qualified. So I do view myself as an attorney.
Yeah.
And I've had to work really hard on this. I'm 41. And I would say for 2 decades, I've been having an identity crisis on trying to figure out, how do I communicate who I am? What do I do? And now at this age, I'm starting to understand. I kind of got this a few years ago when my girls were born. They're 5, so I'm quickly learning that I just get to be who I am, all aspects of it. And if I'm more confident in how I am with myself and what I could do with it, I don't have to worry as much as and hopefully not at all, about what other people think about how I'm presenting myself.
Okay.
Because that's getting a little abstract, but
No, that's great. I wanted to follow up on that question. Is there something you see as a professor, a common mistake you see students make that has taught you something?
So, and I got to clarify, it's so weird. I'm a lecturer, which, professors, the title's really kept for research-based. But man, it's so interesting, the formalities of academics and your experience as students. So let's go right into the experience. I see a lot of students. I teach entrepreneurship at Haslam. I only teach entrepreneurship classes. I'm really lucky that I'm afforded that ability. One thing I see, I have students that have got it, that figured out that this topic can apply to them at all stages of their career. And as you would imagine, people that want to make a business now, they get that faster. One of the mistakes that I see from a lot of students is not showing up repeatedly asking why. And they don't have to do it in person in class, but just on the assignments, on the work, on the material, just engaging with it. I feel like a lot of people that right now, they will consider themselves, I'll never be an entrepreneur, I'll never start a business. I feel like that's wrong factually, because if you look at all these successful entrepreneurs, there are a lot that were like, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to make it work. But there are also a lot later in life they had had some circumstances, and entrepreneurship was a tool to be able to make your own money, have autonomy, have freedom of flexibility, control over your own life. And so the thing that I see, honestly, what people are making the most mistake out of paying the crazy amount of tuition at any higher ed, which now higher education has to really justify the ROI, right? So, I think UT's doing a good job in trying to ensure that, anyone paying tuition can justify the ROI of it, and that's the idea. And I think everyone's really mindful of that. But not all colleges are like that. But the biggest mistake is that young people aren't learning just for the sake of learning. They're just trying to get through with it. It's the same fucking reason why I just want the weekend to come. The week that terrible? It's so bad to live. We all need breaks, but why can't we also have breaks during the middle of the week? Or if it's really that busy, it's been busy for me and my family, it's been crazy busy. I'll rest soon. But when I see young people just not engaging and learning for the sake of learning, man, they just want an output. I could go on that.
We see that as well. So
It's like, how checked out? Like, we just want to get there fast. Where? And then everything in life is done. There's no more life to live?
yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
So yeah, that is crazy. But I want to go back to when you were a student. So if you could go back right now and tell yourself a couple things when you graduated college, give me a couple of them. What would they be?
Okay, one.
And why?
I thought when I graduated Carnegie Mellon with a business and psychology degree, I thought I really wanted a nice fancy title. I remember interviewing for a few companies, and I really sucked at the whole interview thing. I didn't understand it. Then also entrepreneurship was a new word, and it was a new class that was only offered every 2 years, one time for like 30 students. So this was 2006, which is 20 years ago, which sounds crazy. I remember I was applying, and I applied to the Heinz company. You know, the ketchup?
Yeah.
They have a lot of products, Heinz company. And they were looking for a data analyst. And I remember there was that. And then I remember post-graduation, I took an off year. I was in DC living at home with my parents. That was probably one of the most tumultuous years of my life. I didn't feel good about myself. But I learned a lot. I applied to law school then. And one thing, I had a job opportunity to be a sales representative or an account executive at this pretty decent consulting company in DC, and I instantly wrote it off. I've never told anyone this story. I instantly wrote it off because of the title. You know how much of a mistake that was? And I didn't get the data analyst position, but I thought I needed to prove how smart I was. It's such a mistake. Like, I wish I actively found rooms that made me feel dumb, or I felt like a fish out of water. Later on, I didn't realize that now it's the rooms where I feel like a fish out of water that have been the most helpful ones to my entire career and happiness. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
So like just getting out of your comfort zone.
Being where you want to go and being curious about something. And then saying, okay, I'm curious about this thing. How can I possibly do that? And that's when people talk themselves out. That's what I see young people, students talk themselves out. Older people do it all the time too. And that's why older people don't, it's harder for someone who has lived many more years to have dramatic shifts in their life. Or they're seen as crazy. But at the end of the day, if there's a hesitation, but there was a good reason to do it, maybe you should just follow the good reason, that maybe it will all work out because you'll find a way to make it productive for yourself. I wish someone told me that. You will find so many different ways to make any experience productive. I was able to make music productive. All those years of mixing music, having my parents hate me for it, actually fed into my music tech startup, which then, but for that, I wouldn't be teaching. I would not be teaching if it wasn't for my failed music tech startup.
It's crazy how life goes.
And I can't imagine not teaching.
Yeah.
This has been like the best thing ever. It's like you guys, like students are the best part of it. Like you all are paying a big price tag for hopefully huge changes. And when I get those aha moments and those clicks, or you get like this angle, that makes everything. It's great.
At what point do you feel like you really realized the value in that lesson? Or like looking back, going back to college, was that the biggest lesson you learned?
I learned in college that you're going to meet some friends that will have your back no matter what, and you should probably keep those relationships going on as long as you can. I also learned that there are really few people in life that will give you a lot of attention that feels and fits right and feels you in ways that are special. So when you find people that feel yourself in a way that's really special, you hang on to them as much as you can. You try to cultivate them. So I have two experiences from college, like post as a 41-year-old. One, I had decided to reconnect with my one favorite professor of all time who fundamentally shifted how I think, how I talk. He was my business communications professor, Chad Herman, and he's still in Pittsburgh, and he's just amazing. And I learned so much about how to be by watching him and his sharpness and how to be in front of people. It was like an awakening call. He kind of like allowed me to figure out that there are people that are thirsty for life, and because I saw it in him. And it was one of the first few times that I saw that, and it was exciting because I want that too. The other interaction I recently had, I reconnected with one of my friends, from 20 years ago, from college, because he had shared something on LinkedIn, and I was like, yeah, and I just piled on, and like, hey, like we should catch up. It's like, if anyone wants to demonize social media platforms, like, are you sure about that? Like, people are finding the long lost relatives and dogs with social media and like reconnecting with friends. Like, it can't be good. You need to teach how to deal with it. God, that's a whole other thing. But man, I mean, that connection you have in college, like, just don't underestimate it. That's one thing I learned. Like, all the relationships, I kind of get that. Like when I was graduating, but I kind of didn't at the same time. And then because you don't know, when you graduate, you're like all over the place. Yeah. Like people travel, have different lives. It's crazy how different it is. And then you do feel isolated afterwards. So as much as I could say like I saw it coming, no. Right?
Yeah.
But that's great. You can hear stories and like do better than me. Right? Which is so weird. When you say successful, for me, I don't view myself as successful. That's something I'm trying to actively reprogram as a part of me. I know I am successful, but there are hang-ups that I have that that prohibit me from viewing myself as successful.
Yeah. Even aside from monetary success, you're very wealthy in wisdom, so I feel like that's something that's...
Well, I'll tell you what, I am more wealthy in wisdom than dollars. I mean, 100%. 100%. Now, I've helped a lot of other founders and entrepreneurs make a lot more money than I will probably see realistically, which is cool. I'm sort of okay with that. But I'm actually curious on what like my flex could be, which is why I'm excited with the law firm, with what I'm doing. But man, like my kids, my wife, our little family, like everything. Anna, Sylvie, Sarah's my wife. I mean, it's been like, it's hard to parent twins, and they're 5. Twin girls, identical. And I know I have a world of challenges ahead of me, but man, they're the best thing. They're also the hardest thing in the world. I've never had such stress in my life. But when it's meaningful, it reminds you that we are so capable of so much more. It is so exciting. And so like everything else is important, can weigh on me. But like every time when I drop them off or pick them up from school, I'm like, okay, here it is. Or like I see them doing something so sweet with their mom, I'm like, that makes me so happy.
Do you feel like being a parent is harder than starting a new company?
Yeah. I think being a parent is so much harder because if the company fails, you can walk away or you can kill it. We should never think about those actions for kids, like for a family, right? So I mean that's why parenting is always like this much harder. I don't care what anyone can fight me about it. And I know there are a lot of people who choose not to have kids, who just never had kids, who worked on their businesses. And honestly, like, that's fine. You do you. I just know that for myself, I wouldn't be able to do it. Hence, here I am. And I know that even though this feels so hard right now, it was the medicine that I needed for myself. I had gaping holes in my heart. You know, wife first helped significantly with that. Honestly, like, solid. And then the kids made the heart bigger.
Okay.
So
It is.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned about finding things that are meaningful and fulfilling to you. So how would you describe to a student to find a meaningful and fulfilling career path or find their passions? Because I feel like when a lot of students graduate, they don't really know exactly what they want to do.
There are so many things in the way that you ask that show to me the ironies of what it is for you as students. We all know what we're interested in. Like, what are you interested in when you're not doing schoolwork?
Yeah, outdoors,
Outdoors. Okay, great. What else?
fishing, hunting,
Fishing, hunting. So it probably makes sense and what's your major?
business management.
So this is my equation. You take the passions that you have, that's the why, that's the industry, that's where you want to play in, and how you make your money is your major. So this applies even if you're a writer. If you're an English major, I still think the same thing applies. Your craft, how to write prose and communicate thoughts in a way that hopefully are better than most. Depends on the area that you like to discuss or write or have conversations about. And then you just put yourself out there as much as you possibly can and watch magic happen. And it doesn't have to involve making a business. There's always this weird narrative that if you take any discipline and add business to it, yeah, but you don't have to be a businessman or businesswoman, a business person to be happy and successful. So in order for every student to lock in on their passion, this is counterintuitive advice. I actually think they need to think about when they were kids, and hopefully they had parents or whoever the caregiver was, or maybe it was just their friends because you weren't close with your parents for any number of reasons. Think about what were the things that you were doing as a kid, and then wake up to this new world that you can actually make money in a lot of different ways. You can get noticed in a lot of different ways. That means if you get noticed, you're top of the pile for a hiring list. You don't have to start a business. You can just get hired at a nice job. I think that's the way. I think everyone has the answer. I just think that we've piled on all this layer of bullshit that we're trying to convince ourselves that that's not our passion or what we should do.
Thank you.
Like, there's just so many gems in what you're saying. It's taking a second.
Dropping a bunch of knowledge on
But
us.
it's just, I firmly believe everyone, besides like asking a lawyer what the hell I need to do to protect myself in XYZ or a financial or like a tax preparer, we all have the answers for what we want to or need to do. But there are a lot of people that get off on the fact that they want to tell us that that's wrong. And there are businesses and money to be made from that, which is utter bullshit. It's counter to humanity and it's counter to what actually makes people happy. And then it skews what definition of success is. Which is like, even here, for me saying all this, I'm like, I'm not successful. I'm like, I am. But that was my like gut reaction when you're like, you're successful. I'm like, no, I'm not.
There's no question about that one.
But I had a question about that one, which shows the irony of how we're programmed. So, if you're a student watching this, if you're a student that has friends that are lucky enough to watch this, then all of a sudden you can start unprogramming yourself right now. And if you can start unprogramming yourself right now, it's like I always say this analogy, it's the James Clear Atomic Habits analogy. If your flight path is off by 1 degree, you end up in DC, not New York, from a flight from Los Angeles. And it's the same thing here. You all have the benefit with social media, digital platforms, friends, and different disciplines. I mean, you're exposed to a lot of shit, don't get me wrong, but you're also exposed to a lot of good stuff. And then you can change how you talk about yourselves to yourselves. Amazing. And you can start by saying, I have the answers.
We're getting a lot of answers from this podcast.
I hope. Which I have to disclaim something, that it's the whole kill your idols thing. I really believe that advice that's black and white is not the best. So even anything that I've said that's black and white has to be applied to context. I can generalize, and I'm given the gift of being able to speak fast, which means that I can get more disclaimers and nuance in a shorter amount of time. So, that's great. But at the end of the day, the best advice, really, I think this is why I like this. It comes from storytelling that you can take to yourself, and then you can take the best parts of it. That's the best advice.
Yeah.
The one that you give to yourself.
I'm glad you said that, because my next question for you was, who is on your Mount Rushmore of mentors or coworkers, or just people over the years who really made a difference in your journey?
Oh man, there's so many. But the few come to mind. Big shout out to Doug Blaze. Doug Blaze was the dean of the law school when I was a student in there. And I'll share this on tape. I haven't shared this like publicly, but it's, I was driving from home, Northern Virginia, back home, home, right? I've been down here 18 years, like this is home. But I was driving through rural parts of Virginia, and I was driving, I think I was passing someone, and I peaked at like 86 miles per hour. I got a speeding ticket, but I didn't realize in Virginia, even though I was 16 over the limit, which was 70, it was actually reckless because it was over 80. And that actually had a big effect on me, because as a law student, when you're putting the bar application together and putting it in, you have to disclose anything that could be that kind of level of violation. And reckless driving charge has criminal connotations to it. So I actually I needed to hire an attorney or go represent myself. And people like Dean Doug Blaze, one, made me feel better about myself, because I didn't know how to handle failure at that point in my life, because I was such a perfect A student. And I had already like disappointed my parents in so many different ways at this point. And I'm like, I'm starting to understand what failure means in a lot of different ways, or like perceived failure. But I hadn't hit like this almost existential, like, oh no, like I might not even be able to sit for the bar, which wasn't true. I learned a lot. But like that was really helpful. Dorothy Campbell and Brian Crum were two law school professors. I'm still friends with Brian Crum. Unfortunately, Dorothy Campbell passed. She was a really prominent entertainment lawyer that taught one class, and we just kept in touch. And both of them signed on to my bar application. And for me, I just didn't feel like I fit in law school. I just really didn't, for so many different reasons. And they validated my place in it, which also validated my place in Knoxville. Because when I graduated, I wanted to leave, but then I didn't want to leave because of my wife, right? I really, so to make the list shorter, I really look up to the elected officials, particularly of Knoxville. I've looked up to Madeline Rogero, past mayor, Ashley Capps, AC Entertainment. I got to sit on his board for big years. That was a great learning experience. It was awesome. Various people around, Randy Boyd, I was able to have a conversation with him for one of my Founder Fridays, and just getting to run into him, it's been fantastic. And just wealth of knowledge. And plenty of people, I'll shout out to John Bruck. There's just so many people have had so many stories and learnings and insights, and then they've shown that they care about people, and then they give me the time and care and energy. I feel like I don't deserve that, because everyone's walking their own life. And so I'm really thankful for it.
Yeah. And kind of playing off the mentor question, are there any other role models that you look up to a lot that you maybe don't know? Like people who've written books or founders of other companies? Yeah. And what's some advice that you've heard them say that's really stuck with you?
Yeah, so the really short list is Gary Vaynerchuk. He's like one of my OG go-tos, because the amount that he curses resonates with that's my spirit animal. So that's really cool. But I feel like he's the best via video of not meeting the guy to be able to shake you at the same time with his words. And I always admired that aspect, and his messaging's very clear. Michael Siebel of Y Combinator, he was the CEO and president of it, or CEO. And I just thought, if you look up any podcast or videos by that guy, Michael Siebel, they're just fantastic. They're just genuine, authentic. He is who he is. He's not, like, it's so enjoyable, and it's so informative. And what else? What other books were, but it's also like the whole kill your idols thing. But I will tell you, there were a couple of books, if I may.
Yeah.
So these are older books that might not be cool to look up, which might be actually more valuable.
Yeah.
So one is by Scott Belsky called Making Ideas Happen. That was one of my first original favorite books. And it's the whole premise that ideas are 1%, perspiration, actually making them a reality is 99% of the game.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Another is by Paul Arden. He's a designer. And the book was, oh God, I'm going to blank out. I forget what the book name was, but it was like it's a small little one. And what I loved about it, it was like design thinking in a small little book before that was a term that was really thrown around, where it was just challenge your assumptions. Like little things like your title. Your title could be intern, or it could be, like brewmaster extraordinaire, or like mood setter manager, or like things that demand attention, but that also elevate, but give you an opportunity to do something with that attention. But I just love that book. And then there was one more that was, I'll just say it. So I think 0 to 1 is a fantastic book. I don't agree with Peter Thiel as a person, but man, there were some really good startup insights. And it's really helpful because he was part of the original PayPal Mafia, which is the term where like there were all these original people that were involved with PayPal in the early years. They all recycled to create these crazy big successful companies. So I actually view 0 to 1 as a way of, it's almost like the Illuminati book, where you can see how people think about startups and innovation. And I just love that book, even though I don't care for the author as much.
No, that's great. Kind of to wrap things up here, I want to leave the audience with another gem from the other ones. Habits. What are some habits that you've developed over the years that are very important to your success, and how do you balance your time between your family and business and everything else you have going on?
This is a nice summary. I do view myself successful in my family, my personal life, my happiness, my ability to make an impact. I've been able to, you can make an impact in the whole world. It just starts really small to yours. Mm-hmm. And I've always felt that at a young age, which is great. Here are some things that help me with that, habit-wise. I try to journal as often as I can. It was a precarious way to journal, and I wasn't always, no system felt right. So I'm going to share my system that worked for me real quick. I have this Moleskine Pro that has a table of contents in the beginning, and there's dates and page numbers, and I title each page for any day that I write, and then after so many months, I go through and write the table of contents and reflect. And I've got notebooks of that over the years, over the last probably 5, 6, how many years I've done it. That's been really helpful.
Yeah.
Because what it does, if I'm worried or stressed out about something, it gets out, so it's less in here. Also helps me be thankful for things, and that's really cool. It clarifies the why. So recently I'm like, I want to make my family happier. Great. That's an awesome North Star.
Yeah.
Another habit, I suck at. Can I tell you a habit I suck at?
Sure.
I suck right now at calling my parents. And I feel so guilty about it. But over the years, I feel like I have all these mental hangups, and I just need to figure that out because I want to share more, and I try, but I just need to refine what that looks like. And the one thing that I need to get over is that I'm not going to figure it out by distancing. Mm-hmm. I'm going to figure it out by trying every day. Mm-hmm. So that's something I have to get better at my habits. Another habit that I'm trying to improve is not check my emails and messages all the time and letting it sit. And then that's actually a really good indicator of how stressed I am or anxious or how bad I want something, which also helps me reflect and say, wow, what do I really want? And then going back to something positive, what's a really good habit? Remembering that I don't know anything, or that the things that I know, but man, there are so many things I don't know. And always being thankful for the humbling moments where someone reminds me I don't know. Because there'll be so many times I'm like, I'm so excited that I know something, and I'm gonna da 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 da. And then the person, because I didn't shut up and I didn't give them a chance to talk.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, wife Sarah, like is the biggest victim of this. And then they're like, yeah, no shit, like here. I'm like, humbled again. Like it's that whole advice that if you're the one talking, like, are you really the smartest person in the room? Like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Like, watch out for the quiet ones.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one of my right. That's one of my weak points. I just talk too damn much. It's the ADD, you know. And one more habit. Actually, this is really cool. Try to always appreciate the little things that can make you happy. And I've got a really good habit of that. And honestly, that's the reason how I've been able to get through bad depression, failures in business, failures in personal life from time to time, but nothing's been fatal, which is really, I'm so thankful. And I don't know about you guys, but we've had a lot of cold weeks in the winter, and I've seen a lot of people just out in the elements, you know, and it's just like, wow, what do we have the right to be unhappy about anything? You know, like clothes, coffee, expensive coffee, food, people that love us. That's amazing. So I think one of the habits that gets slept on, that gets slept on, is just staying optimistic and staying happy where you can, and just being curious on what good can come from that. That's probably my strongest habit.
That's awesome.
I have one more quick question before we end it out here. Since you're an entrepreneur, I'm sure you're used to this a lot, but how do you deal with failure, and how do you think students should deal with failure?
That's so good. I do get afraid for how young people deal with failure, because a lot of times young people deal with failure in ways that are glamorized in film, production, reels, in a way that's really not healthy. I thought dealing with failure / also enjoying success meant that I would drink a whiskey every night. And then we had our girls in 2020, and then in 2023, the doctor told me that my liver enzymes are really abnormally high, and I need to stop drinking immediately. And then I had a hard look at myself, and I'm like, I'm not an alcoholic, but I feel like I'm pretty damn close to one. I was just drinking every night, and it turns out I was white-knuckling my ADD, which didn't know that, because I would have all this coffee during the day that I had all these uppers that I needed a downer at night to balance me out. And that was an eye-opener. That was just a huge eye-opener. I kind of actually forgot the original question, because that just took me to a different place. Ground me, recenter me.
So how do you think students should deal with
Thank
failure?
you. My God. I mean, that's how deep that hole was.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid young people don't have good mechanisms to deal with failure, because you all have really been raised in a prosperous time. Your parents or caregivers have had pretty decently prosperous times. They're probably millennials, and millennial wealth has actually increased a whole lot recently in the last decade or so. So y'all might not have seen a lot of like failures, and that's not necessarily true. That's not across the board. I mean, we did have the Great Recession in 2008. There's other aspects economically as a culture. But the best way to deal with failure is trying to find some grace for yourself. And actually, that's like all fine and dandy, but I'll tell you exactly how I dealt with failure with my music tech startup that sent me for an absolute tailspin of depression. I stumbled upon Martin Seligman's positive psychology framework, which he's a psychologist. He's the grandfather of positive psychology. He found in his early research days in the 70s, I believe, that rats were learning how to be helpless. This helplessness. And at that point, psychology was like, your thoughts can't really control your actions and future outcomes. That's how far behind psychology was at that point. And so this was new, that our thoughts can actually dictate our outcomes and our actions and behaviors. Enter wise mind, enter other frameworks. But back to positive psychology, there were 3 Ps that I used every day to get myself out of that, to understand that I'm not a failure, but I had experienced a failure. And there's such an important difference between all that. So the 3 P's are permanence. Something doesn't last forever. Just remind yourself, it doesn't last forever. Personalization. This doesn't only happen to you. This probably happens to a lot of other people, right? Okay, and the last one. So we have things that don't last forever. It's not just you. The last one's pervasiveness. Not everything is shit. Back to the homeless people, right? Back to someone who is totally food insecure or has no transportation. Like, you have clothes, coffee, water, food, people love you. Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You might not have all the rungs, but you at least have the very bottom one. And then understand that how many conflicts are there in the rest of the world or even within the States, and be like, wow, I know that I'm safe. And it can go as deep as your skin color or creed. I think we have a lot of things to be thankful for. So I don't ever hear young people talk about stuff like that because I don't think they've seen that modeled by their elders. Because elders are fucked up still wondering how they're going to deal with their failure. Or things have been so successful that they haven't hit failure yet. So my shortest bit of that is just to young people, just remember that it doesn't last forever, it doesn't just happen to you, and not everything is shit.
Yeah. You shared a lot of great advice this podcast.
You want to wrap it up?
Yeah. I'll let you
All right. I just want to say thank you again. This was awesome. I felt like we set the bar a little bit too high. So First episode, it was very powerful. So hopefully we can build off of that. So thank you guys for watching, and we will be back.
Yeah. Thank you so much, HQ. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, and you guys are great. Hope you guys get a lot of value out of this and keep tuned along for more advice. Remember, life is about perspectives. Everyone has a story. Take bits and parts from that and make it your own. That's the best advice.